Well, here's another casualty from the war in Ukraine. Farmers fear planting their spring crops due to the risk of setting off landmines. Emergency services are working to clear the fields of the deadly explosives, risking their own lives in the process. Chuck Holton reports from Kyiv.
It's spring here in Ukraine, and if the farmers are going to have a fall harvest, they need to get seeds in the ground soon. But one new worry, aside from the weather and pests, is slowing them down. Something like this.
This farmer hit a mine with his tractor, and in areas liberated from Russian occupation, hundreds of thousands of mines litter the fields. Dozens have died trying to plant their crops.
174,000 square kilometers of the territory of Ukraine are contaminated by landmines laid by the occupier and Russian shells of various types that have not exploded. This contaminated area is twice the size of Austria. These are hundreds of thousands of anti-personnel and anti-tank mines, MLRS rockets, aerial bombs and mortar shells, which, without exploding, get stuck in the fields, in the remains of houses, and even tripwires with grenades, which the Russians left specifically against civilians, ordinary people.
Farmers have to clear these out. They sometimes strike them with their tractors. You have people who will be discovering for the next over 100 years unexploded shells in one way, shape, form, or another.
The state emergency services are working overtime to help the farmers plant crops safely. Still, they need more workers and are hiring as fast as they can.
This is a very stressful job, so we first do a psychological assessment to make sure they can handle it. From there we have shortened the training to only 1 month. Once they pass their exams, we send them right out to the front lines for on-the-job training.
This unit, who consist of 77 guys, they are all operational. They are all working on a front line. And I found in them this kind of a internal peace, which is, I think, super important for any pyrotechnic or demining guys.
This group has been together since long before the war started, so they have plenty of experience with demining.
Before the war started, we were already very busy. More than 10,000 explosive objects were found in 2021 alone, and most of them were from the Second World War.
The job they have to do now is much, much more dangerous.
Once areas are deoccupied, we are the first to go in. We find explosives wired into doors, between blankets on beds, even in children's toys, where if you push the button, the toy explodes.
They're demining something that is invisible, and nobody expects to have it right there in your toy or under your pillow. And that's like, they are doing it. So they are the ones who knows and who can make a change.
And doing the job takes a high emotional toll.
When you see what they are doing to Ukraine and Ukrainians, it's hard to think of them as humans anymore.
These missiles right behind me are just a small fraction of the more than 14,000 munitions that have been rendered safe by the state emergency services of Ukraine. And this training facility is bringing up the next generation of EOD specialists to try to render safe the hundreds of thousands of square kilometers that are having unexploded ordnance dumped on it during this war.
But the number of mines in the ground keeps growing as long as Russia holds any territory in Ukraine. So the greatest hope is that the Russian army will be defeated this year.
I don't want to live in a world where any humans would have the idea to harm a child or any other human beings.
This war will linger for a very long time, and the longest lasting remnant will be those unexploded ordnances.
Reporting from Kyiv, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
It's beyond evil to leave an explosive in a child's toy. That is absolutely horrific. I don't understand the mindset behind that. I don't particularly want to understand the mindset behind it. But it does underline this is not some war where Russia is saying we have to defeat the fascists in Ukraine and this is all part of a greater Russia. Why in the world would you line a field with mines if you expect to occupy it, if you expect to stay there? It's all part of this horrible thing that Putin has unleashed on the entire world. It's not just Ukraine. Here's something to consider, that if the farmers in Ukraine can't plant their crops because of these landmines, the whole world is going to suffer. Ukraine is the breadbasket for all of Europe and Africa. So if they aren't able to bring in a harvest because of this, we're all going to suffer. But particularly if you look at being a child in a war zone, the suffering is just unimaginable. Please, can we pray together? May this war stop. May the Russian people come to their senses and say, we don't want any part of this. This isn't who we really are, and we need to make this war stop and stop now.